doobie. Ba da 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 ba ba. Shooby doo 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 doo. Shooby dooby dooby da. Shooby doo doo dee doo da. Dooby 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 da. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 da ba. Ba da ba 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 ba. Shooby dooby dooby. Why is Best Picture just a Christmas hat? Oh my god! I'm sorry. I was looking at the Discord and well, you see, the community was attempting to have things more jolly. So thank you so much. Wow, starting off the stream with a what's up? Hello, Blue. What's this? Gosh, there's so many I'm missing in chat.
Over a year.
Reed, Emilia, Zero, Clear, Vesper, halfway through her second assignment, and Rook. And most of all, we have Lit. Thank you for helping me with the science yesterday, Lit. Also, you may notice my face tracking might be a bit wonky. I'm trying this new feature from a VRCFT update, which says it has auto calibration. Now let's see how good auto calibration is versus the parameters that I've set. Let's give it a trial run. So far, there's a few hit and misses, but it's working. But yes, yo, caught my first live. I need to put the chat window like up. What's this? Yo, you caught my first live day after I found you. This is amazing. Well, welcome to my streams, the live version of what I do and the other social media sites. I'll probably just have a second overlay here. Put that there. Wow, enlarge. Lock. Make it opacity 94. Yes. Hello, Nord. It's been a while, hasn't it? Stars Wolf. I got bullied into playing RuneScape again, says Rook, so I'm doing that while watching today. Ah, yes. Life skilling the game. Now, let's see if all my cameras work as intended. Hello? Yes. The Tinker Boss. Hi, this is my first stream from you on which I am, says R.W. Godwin, from which I am. Why does it sound philosophical? My first stream from you on which I am. Oh, hold on, I almost forgot my little friendship bracelet. This thing. Apparently, I did not set the parameter of this thing to be synced, so you guys never saw it in game. I'm having fun and I don't understand why. Because it gives you tasks and, you know, the self-perpetuating cycle of having something to do and improve upon. Is your color blue a little bit different? Is it just the lighting? It's the lighting. The post-processing on this place is a teeny tiny bit intense. This is a different fireplace map from where I usually am. So yeah. Pardon the color grading, I can't really turn it off. Alopex is very bored with work. All the distractions are welcome. Hi. Also, I have upgraded my 7-in-1 Vive tracker receiver thingamajig to the version 2. Let's see if my trackers decide to do the foot salute and fly off. But hopefully it's more consistent. Draung says he will be done with hunting for the day. Ah. It's a lighting in post-processing, says Vesper. I remember going to a forality map with him and the pink in contrast was so pretty. Yes. Post-processing, chat. Normally you see me in neutral or warmer lighting. This time I'm in, well, the tone that you see me at now. A most happy and jolly time. Everybody that has a Santa hat on the server, if I see it after stream and you wear it until end of the year, initially I will give you a bonus 5 levels. No, I'll be generous. I'll make it 10 levels, right? So you get 10 levels just for having the hat. And if you keep on wearing it every day until January 1, I'll put an extra bonus for the next Great Reset as well. Tempting. Yes, Beth, you know, he takes the cake because he's nothing but just a hat. Super excited for tomorrow to happen. The update happens at 1 p.m. my time. My goodness, you're correct, isn't it? They finally released the warband that we've all been wanting. Wait, 7-in-1 ways to... No, I actually have 9 receivers. You see, I have 7 for arm, chest, hip, thigh, foot, controller, and 1 on the headset for space calibrator. I have 9 Vive trackers in total, chat. I know, I could have gotten away with like 5, but oh well. It's here, so might as well use it. Oh, so it puffs my cheek. Oh. So if I keep on puffing my cheek, it will think it's not puffing my cheek. I guess the calibration algorithm still has to learn from me. Just a few trackers. Just a few. Well, and so Fluffy begins the December train. You may notice, first of all, thank you, that there are 2 bars in the go. We have one here, which is the usual, and then we have this thing. This thing is called the Christmas Miracle. I'm not the type to really have subathons and, you know, what the other streamers do where they have to pay their soul and throw themselves at the mercy of chat in exchange for money. No, I'm simply putting this here for transparency because I'm saving up for the bike and I'm starting to get really bad symptoms of not being able to drive outside. Probably a manifestation of my cabin fever. But yes, that's what it's for. The Christmas Miracle. If and when it happens, what can I promise? I will most definitely do the me not driving off a cliff stream on the new bike. Yes, just like what Fluffy did. Except Fluffy, you know, he kind of like went to like 300 kilometers per hour on a peaceful countryside road. Clearly behavior one should not emulate. Good evening, Waffle. I don't know. It's there. It doesn't have to happen, but it would be really nice and life-changing if it did. Heck, even if it's just 10% of what it is, it goes a long, long way. That's why I call it a Christmas miracle. Maybe miracles happen, maybe not. Maybe... Mark Zuckerberg might pass by and, hey, you're still using the Quest Pro? I see. Yeah, here we go. Here's like 0.1 million of my earnings. I would never do such illegal things, says Fluffy. Of course, clearly, one always follows the speed limit, minus 20, so he drives around in first gear all the time at like 50 kilometers per hour on his 1000cc bike. Clearly. Rook says sorry, but I have to temporarily drop my sub, depending on when he goes. Rook, first of all, you don't have to apologize. It's completely okay. IRL stuff happens, especially with Christmas, so there's family stuff and buying gifts for everybody because they're expecting. Yes. So completely understandable. Hmm. But yeah. We're listening to different music today, aren't we? Well, as much as this brings a jolly mood, I don't think the atmosphere kind of suits it, so after this song, I'm gonna go back to my usual jazz. I'm a big Christmas fan, chat. Whenever it's holiday season, it's December, when the non-existent snow starts to fall in my country, well, I tend to be smilier than usual. Christmas season has always lifted up my spirits, regardless of the situation I'm at. There was a time where, chat, I didn't have a proper roof over my head and I was essentially homeless for almost a year. But I still enjoyed the Christmas at that time. Hey, have you ever celebrated Christmas with a bunch of hobos? That may be closer to reality than a joke. So on VRCFT, you just check the calibration. Now it's something different. Yes, I turned off parameter adjustment. Remember the little tutorial I taught you, the 0.7s? And I just enabled calibration, and that's what we're using right now. I have to probably review this footage and see how it looks. So far, it's pretty okay. Also, if you're wondering about the face tracking tweaks I did, those were just all eyebrow reworks. Very subtle things, but a lot of trial and error. For some odd reason, my headset seems more heavy than usual. I wonder why. Oh, there's a little something I also did. Though you can't really see it on stream because when a character speaks, right? Normally, the larynx, they call it the Adam's apple, right? It moves up and down. When you make higher pitched sounds like E, the larynx is supposed to go up, and then you go oh, it's supposed to drop a little bit. So I added more subtle movements to that. It's little things that add to the organicness of one's presentation. Has the XR arrived? No, it hasn't. 100%. I don't even have the XR, period. What are you talking about? I'm still using the Quest Pro. Hello, tuning in from Instagram. I came for the visuals. Clearly not the Christmas music. I'm joking. Let's go to the usual. Christmas. In all honesty, I'm really tempted to just go play. Oh, that has... Oh, my lips are supposed to be closed. What? I apparently did not completely calibrate my face. See, I'm puffing my cheeks, but my front lips are open. It will learn in time. Hi, Bev. Greetings, almost greetings to you. I see you guys had a most fun time with the Game of Thrones marathon. I remember being very fond of the first season, maybe the second season. And somewhere in between, things just started to turn into a slog. Mm. I missed it when Jason Momoa was still on set. The, the great mighty Khal Drogo, to be failed by what? Goddamn flies on his wounds. He got what, an infection of some sort? Sepsis. I'm also curious about the cure that they used on him. Did they like lobotomize the guy? What is even a sleep schedule, says Rock? That's something you gotta ask Mitzi. Always sacrificing one of the most fundamentally important things in one's life, sleep. Oh no, just had that yesterday. Really? Was that the episode? Can you imagine the mightiest warrior ever? You know how he dies, chat? He dies by having a pillow over his face. Like, maybe that's the irony of it, right? Azur le Protogen. Hello, Azur. Welcome to the stream. Camera too low. Man. You know, I just came from a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a 4-day break. Thanks to, well, our community making the bar reach completion. And, oh, let me tell you, it was apparently something I really needed. Gosh, I was approaching the oh so dreaded burnout. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe because there are games that I wanted to play. So all weekend, chat, I did not touch Blender, Unity, and whatnot. Only earlier, so it doesn't count. And I decided to go catch up on games with friends. And it was nice. We were having fun. We recently fired up the Division 2 again. Guess what? 6 players now. And I look forward to playing some more. It also gives me time to mentally refresh, right? For somebody who relies on conversations as their streaming content, I don't have a medium such as game that will provide the information for you to watch. It's purely everything from here, chat. For the past almost 2 years, it's just been nothing but conversations. Ooh. Which is pretty okay. And I'm okay with that too. I contemplated on doing a gaming stream, but yes. Maybe sometime in the future. What's this? You didn't answer my question, Geb. My goodness! It seems I am obligated to go answer Lily, whose also important inquiry has presented themselves to. So, pardon me, Your Highness, let me get to your question. Just want to know, where did you get that avatar and how much it costed you? Be honest, please. I have something more in mind. You know what? I don't like that thing where you added, be honest, please. You make it out as I'm a liar of some sort, but fine. Go to Gumroad, go to Tokyo Zilla's page, and then you'll see the Hydra GM. There you have it. Gosh, what's with some chatters feeling so entitled, huh? Beth continues about Khal Drogo. Also, she 100% should have just stabbed him. Less painful than suffocation, right? I still wonder, what did they do to cure him? It kind of more like destroyed his mind in exchange for his constitution, his health to come back. Hmm. Blood magic. Oh, what's that? It's been years since I've watched the scene. I see. Gab's got a humongous social battery. On the contrary, I don't. Uh, if you observe during our meetups, I tend to shrink away at a certain time. Like, oop, I gotta skedaddly do. This is most evident whenever there's a lot of people on the Discord. People I don't know in particular. I tend to vanish into the wind. Fluffy says, I'm sure the witch just played nice and actually wanted to kill him in the show. Ah. Are we talking about the red witch? I forgot what you call her. You know, had that gave birth to that weird demon thing. Rook says Tokyozilla is wonderful. Definitely getting one of their models whenever I get around to VR chat. Yeah, go ahead. I'm not sure if there's a model that is analogous to your persona, which is the uh like a cuttlefish crow, right? A tentacled avian I have yet to lay my eyes upon. No, the one who tried to heal Khal Drogo. Oh. Beth said the witch was probably the reason his small cat got so bad, since she cleaned the wound and she made it clear she hated the Dothraki. You know what? You're right. It was just a cut. It should be something he's used to. Maybe they did it Vietnam style. You know, that blade was soaked in a nice broth of not lemonade and not chocolate. I love this picture. It's the best. It's just a hat. I'm looking at my Discord chat. She added extra poison damage to the blade. Most plausible, isn't it? You learned a new ability. What ability would this be, Mighty Drow? Abilities, huh? Ooh. Shoot, I turned off one of the overlays. Poison plus one, right. I think if you don't brush your teeth long enough, you can probably have the same ability to be cast upon your unlucky foes.
Yeah, we need it for the first year.
1 year of Matthew supporting. Gosh, thanks, buddy. Thank goodness. Matthew got out of his shell, got more confident, and started enjoying VR chat. Like, to my surprise, most of my community members here were simply lurkers and then watchers, right? To chatters. And then they started going into VR chat like head first. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, my Quest Pro. Oh, let's get full body tracking. Not even 1 year into the game. To be fair, I started that way too. Except I didn't have anybody influence me. Oh, it was just blindly getting into it. But yes, Matthew. Also, thank goodness you have work today, huh? In order to put the brakes on a certain division agent's addiction to doing missions for what, 12 hours straight? Huh. 1 year. What's this? Running into Gebas a few months ago now, if I remember correctly. Yeah. When did we first meet, Mitzi? I can't quite recall. When was that fated encounter? Adjusting anything. It's the community meet. I can't quite remember. So I look hunchback in this post, don't I? What's it? The first stream I caught was the second time you used the Hydra. Oh, it means I still had the goggles on top of my head, didn't I? Earlier, when I debuted with this model, I had a different look. It was always like this. But I figured it looks kind of bulky on top of my head, and I like it more on the side of my thighs. Mitsu says it wasn't VR chat, but I found you via Twitter. I eventually saw your stream in the funny bar like 4 or 5 months ago. And started watching stream. Oh, in Bar Side Rail, that's true. That's where we got Litz and the other members who popped up on that night. I don't remember. I think it was Wish Stream. Yeah. Draung prefers being quiet among others. I figured. The last time, what's this? The last time we had Nordex here drop by was a few days ago. During my last stream, I do believe. It wasn't more than a week ago, so yes. Same setting, campfire, forest. Fluffy was there, the enchanted goatee. Mm-hmm. Vesper was there too. But she was AFK most of the time. Blue says no, it was in the alleyway of District Roboto. Oh, on the stacked plastic containers, Blue. Is that what you're talking about? Right, I remember now. Sounds like this summer had brought new faces here and has stayed for long, says Waffle. Yeah, I'm surprised with the quantity of people I've met since the start of this year. Well, okay, maybe earlier this year, rather. There was still a few people going off tangent, I think, February. But yes, the last year, let me tell you, Christmas was most definitely. Whew. It was awkward being around people you can't tell off. The personality problems, thriving with intoxicity and whatnot, not liking each other. Here, I made sure to save the community well, so you guys at least get along with each other, and I'm happy. I get to see you guys always online, right? Getting more often, the watching shows, watching movies, Mitzi going on in public instances and sharing it to the Discord, getting sleep deprived, you know, the very obvious thing I can see, but it's just not being mentioned, and I have a bunch of screenshots about it. Yeah, and yeah, those things. Very nice and conducive. And also we had Forality Somna, which was, I believe, one of the most fun events I've had this year. Man, I wonder what's gonna happen next year. Wait, what's this? Oh, you know, like, just orange juice and mangoes. Don't worry about it. Christmas family isn't the same anymore, says Matthew. It's a common day for me. That's why, for those that have been jaded to the ever so festive holiday season that is presented in December, I'm going to try my best to at least host little gatherings in which we can have the Christmas magic all together. My gatherings are not the most exciting, chat. All we do is pretty much just sit and keep each other company in nice places such as this. Mitzi says, I think the first meet I was at was the same one where my Abby was like standing in that doorway looking like a shadow monster. Ah, it also reminds me of a certain someone having a tail wedged between their butt. Look how far you've gone, Axel. From being shy and panicky in a corner to being within the loving, warm embrace of your friends being around you, right? Ah, so nice, so good. Ah. Matthew says that means Christmas petition for you, Mr. Game. A Christmas petition? A petition for what? Hello, Axiom. No, I'm not saying that aloud. Oh, gosh. Axiom, Howler, Matthew. The troop. These people I regularly hang out with. So nice to see. Now, what to do after stream? Do I go play The Division with the others, or do I go hang out in VR chat for a bit? I think I'm gonna hang out in VR chat for a bit. You guys are more than welcome to come join in. And come chat, come converse. Let's go greet December together. Matthew says Owlboy will need Christmas clothes. You know what? I was about to suggest the same thing to you because I am working on a Christmas presentation visually as well. If I had a Ferality Somna themed outfit, I definitely will have a very gaudy holiday themed one. The corner is safety, the corner is love, right? Right? All you gotta do is watch at the 45 degrees percent before you instead of having to watch your back too. What says? Does the corner come with free Wi-Fi? Nothing is free. That's true. Sometimes I wonder. You see that funny bar over yonder at the bottom left of the screen? Whenever that gets filled up, I can somehow feel the laughter. That's demonic in tone. Another month, another coin to pay for. Like something like that. Something about my soul being reclaimed in the future or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of scary when chat supports you so much and you're a small content creator. Chat, I'm a drop in the vast, enormous ocean of streamers, right? But I'm surprisingly receiving so much love and I'm ever so grateful for that. But at the same time, it kind of makes me scared. Like, oh my goodness, what do I owe in exchange? I don't have OnlyFans or anything like that, which I could just slide in DMs say, psst, here, have some bean pictures and whatnot. That's my show of gratitude. Esper says, I didn't really find any cute outfits for the Hyacinth that didn't give off the wrong vibes. Oh, you mean they're all... What's the proper term for this? They're all Brazzers quality. You know, the usual thing. You get the 5-second ad that you skip. Like, oh, for you to drop by my house, Santa. Like, ho, ho, ho. I got your gift right here. And then it's a funny porn gag.
You've nothing but your soul.
Oh, Satan! The cheap, cheap price of my soul. Thank goodness I can just quietly regrow the portions that I splice off. It's kind of like hair. That's what AI Geb is for. So I have a AI chatbot channel in my server, right? And based on the reports I've seen, AI Geb is clearly not the SFW Geb that you're watching right now. Mm-hmm. He's the Geb that has a lot of lights on his avatar. Totally not me. Spicy Geb. Like Szechuan mainlander overloaded chili spicy. Also, again, thank you, Bev. Gosh. Huh. Oh, yeah. You may wonder, why is this bar filling up, right? And this bar is filling up too. Because this essentially serves as an overspill that I was not able to set up correctly. So, yes, that's if that makes sense. I would consider it a Christmas miracle for the first time in my life. If it does happen. A four-letter word which costs one and a lot of zeros in order for me to say. And you do know it's just gonna be more than a four-letter word, right? Uh, if you look at my own clips where somebody has actually redeemed it. Vesper says, see that AI is just freaky in general. I have not touched that app in ages because bullying the bots has gone from fun to freaky. Yeah, they're a bit too forward. Matthew says, time for the division then meet up. Steam will be open. Blame game for the division obsession. Hey, it's Vesper's free day today, tomorrow, and the day after. We can most definitely finish that last stronghold, right? Along with the rest of the gang. Squad B, Beth, Howler, Axel, and Fluffy, you guys complete the Capitol Hill stronghold as well. And then we can reconvene in New York. Point is, we all have to hit 40. Make the clip from Matthew. You're in. I don't know, Bev. There are ways for that to happen. I don't know how though. God, that's gonna be a serious investment on my part if I'm going to do that. Was it your clip? Yeah, it was your clip. And then there's the one made by Axiom, right? Which was instead of MEOW, it was AWBAH. The yes, that one. Yes, that clip. On it now to get Howler to 30, please. I think Matthew is 40 already. He's a little hot. Vesper says it's not entirely free day. I have to leave the house for some college stuff tomorrow. Ah, Vesper. Man, why do you always have something on your plate whenever there's fun stuff to do? Axiom says, one day you all will play a game I can play too. I do believe we need to Factorio have as much players as we can. In fact, I've seen a YouTube video of Factorio with 500 players on it. It was the craziest thing. We're all trying our best to get a manufacturing plant for ammunition and turrets going. And the aliens, the Tyranids, the Terminids, sorry, were just all like swarming and it was creepy and scary. Definitely something to try. I'm hoping for players that can accommodate more than 4 because we have a lot of gamers in our Discord and obviously people want to play with other people without having to let others drop out, right? would be 100%. Oh, I bet, Mitzi, I bet. One of these games that is proposed is me putting on the table that Minecraft adventure thing again. I have to think of what we can curate. Let's already prototype a more cozy, simple server, but latency has been an issue for me if it's hosted in Europe. So, which Axiom has also graciously offered before, but it kinda got not so fun for, well, the most of it. Let's see. Something long term that the rest of the community can just hop into, drop and play. Let's see. I need to play Ark with some of you. Hey, Brock. You have Fluffy, you have Bev, you have Axiom, who is the number one, like, guru of Ark at the moment. That video with the very bad face tracking. Oh, yes. Vesper says, also, one of my professors is having finals early, so that's why I need to head tomorrow. Is it going to be an on campus, on site sort of exam? I thought you could take everything local. I mean, yes, locally at home. A guitar would be nice for that campfire. That is on the other campfire. I don't have it here right now. It's just me, the sound of crickets, and the mighty vastness of space around me. Why, hello, Doran. How are you? I'm glad you got the hat. Plus 5 levels to you after stream. You know, Bev had the most creative way so far of having the hat as their avatar. So he gets like bonus points. Vesper says because life, big family, lots of animals, nothing stays clean, and schoolwork needs to be kept up with. Yeah. Vesper says the exam is on campus. Online doesn't mean strictly online, unfortunately. Ah, yes. I see. And especially on a snowy week. Excuse me. Ooh. God, excuse me. Doran says I'm doing good. Finished my workout and got a shower. Now a nice cup of coffee and a cookie. I notice you've been posting more of your heart rate statistics. Should I put a fitness channel? I think that's the one thing missing on the Discord. I'm sure you and especially Fluffy can chime in. A fitness channel could be cool. Will be put into the pipeline. High priority. Fitness, huh? Speaking of which, need to catch up on cardio most definitely. Would definitely be useful because I'm never sure if I'm stretching properly. Yeah, we haven't been able to hop back into our little fitness thing every week because Mr. Mechatronic Dragon still has a bad knee. He can't even dance. Almost at a week of consistent workouts, I've been feeling good. If you drop the Monster Energy drinks, Doran, and then you focus wholly on fitness, trust me, you'll feel better. Poor Mecha, I know. You know, it sucks when you have knee issues. It's one thing to deal with pain, it's another thing having to go to the doctors, have this big old needle stuck into it, and then get the nasty, nasty stuff out. Godwin says, am I mistaken? Or am I right in thinking you have a motorcycle? Godwin, you see this? This gets filled up, I get the motorcycle. If it doesn't, well, I don't get a motorcycle so soon. I sold my bike, I think 2 months ago at this point, because the resale value of my Kawasaki was going low really quick. I looked at the marketplace like, what? Oh, it's only that much? So I had to let it go. And now I'm saving up for a Honda bike. The one bike, the forever bike. A game of patience, 100%. Don't worry, I'll be streaming still even after I get it. It's just that you have a happier streamer. Definitely. Because he gets to go out, gets to touch grass and the other important things to keep him sane happening. Dorian says, oh yes, I've definitely decided to stop energy drinks. A rare occasional soda may be, but no more energy. Good. Great. The Honda Africa Twin, a beautiful bike. I know. It's perfect for the environment I live in. One day. That's a shame. I ride old motorcycles. I'm renovating too right now. Oh, pray tell, what are you working on? I know. Many times I've just been tempted to get the Honda X80V or a smaller bike just to curb the need to ride. But then again, it's like I have to stay true to the path of saving up. If I buy a bike now, it's just gonna set me back longer and yes. It's funny. I have a friend DMing me, hey, don't stop looking at the marketplace. Do not buy the second-hand ones. Like, but and like, okay, fine, I'll listen. Okay. Vesper says, Doran will soon stoop to my level where if I want carbonation without sugar rotting teeth, you torment yourself with static water. Static water. Carbonated water? Sparkling water, as they call it. I remember this drink. It's called Cali. Cali was like the non-alcoholic alcoholic beverage. I tried gamer subs a while ago, says Doran, and I much prefer those to normal carbonated energy drinks with a lack of carbonation. So I don't know how that tastes, but I am assuming it's like tang. What fruit juice? I wonder if I can use that machine that Carbonist drinks on. Coffee. Not once in my life have I tasted, seen, or even heard of carbonated coffee, but I would be one of the first in line to try it. That sounds interesting. Beth, I recently bought an ice machine, right? It was on sale for like $30 because it's really hot and my freezer sucks. It's only this large. I read that you can use it for things other than water. So it makes like 8 pieces of tube ice every few minutes, right? Drops it. So in theory, you can make cold coffee made of literally iced coffee from that machine, which is interesting. You don't get coffee that's watered down, and you get the satisfying swishy swishy, like the sound of ice inside a container moving. Trust me, I've tried. Really? Carbonated coffee? How was it? Yeah, I have one of those ice machines. I should make iced coffee with coffee. Right? Tell me how it is, Bev. I'm so curious. I'm tempted to have a separate, really cheap version of it just to sacrifice and make cool, cold drinks. Like, I don't know, iced chocolate or something. Carbonated coffee is disgusting, according to Nord. Oh, why? And that's coming from an older individual, chat. Hmm. Carbonated coffee. I'll probably buy another one in the States that writes it's better. Good luck with that. Lauren says, I do kinda wanna get gamer soups again. It satisfies the same itch. Sorry, there's a fly in my throat. Same itch as soda and stuff, but it's a fair bit healthier. Well, still unhealthy, but yeah, it's the lesser evil. Well, whichever is the lesser evil, Doran. Yes, my lord. Righto. One more year till back in the USA for 3 years. Are you going to have, well, obviously better living conditions because you're back in your home country? But how about work? Are you simply going to be assigned locally instead of being good old Bolivia? Speaking of energy drinks, I should crack one open. Got a 12 pack last week. Somebody time out Rook for 12 minutes. Here we are talking about staying healthy, and then you do the complete opposite. Be a bad influence to the kids. I want a data. Yeah, sure. Yeah, assigned locally, replies Beth. But I'll have to pay for rent again. Oh. I mean, didn't you have that big old mansion of yours that you showed me? The one with, it looks like a Amazon office. Vesper says, also, if you're the type to enjoy creamer in your coffee, my sibling was obsessed with making dirty sodas. Dirty sodas. Dirty sodas, which is basically just soda with sweet and flavored coffee creamer in it. Yo, yikes. It separates the dairy proteins from the rest of the milk before you mix it. Oh, you mean it curdles and like it resembles expired milk? Oh, maybe not. Oh, yikes. Yeah, the government pays that rent. Oh, no. So, the promotion that Beth recently got is going to be balanced out by the need to pay rent. Oh my goodness. After I get my bike, the next thing I'm gonna quietly save up for is like a year of rent or two. Just so in case I need to take a break, I can just not stream for a while. Without worry. Oh my goodness. Yeah, just I remember living paycheck to paycheck is no bueno, chat. Oh, milk. You mean Pepsi and milk? Yeah, but it's not expired. I kind of want my milk whole, not separated via a centrifuge like in a laboratory. Thank you. Hello, Geb, lurking while in Spanish class. If I knew Spanish, I would say good luck in your class in Spanish. Fuego. Pretty easy so far. I've been thinking about picking up a language myself. Guess what language, Jack? It's buena suerte. Suerte. Is that how you spell suerte in you? Luck in your language. Oh, here it's SWERTE. Masuerte, you're lucky. Malas, you're unlucky. The language I'm trying to learn is Chinese. I'm Chinese, but I don't know my damn mother tongue. You see, I'm a Chinese individual with some Filipino mixed in, right? And then I got dumped here in the Philippines. Now I'm a Southeast Asian. Ooh. Traffic, heat, and all the lovely, cheap, delicious street food. But it's such a shame that I don't know the mother tongue of my lineage. That's China, such a massive country, right? They're a superpower economically, industrially. What better language to learn? I already know English, which pretty much the rest of the world knows. Though I want to learn German just for the fun of it. I mean, if you know, you know. Swedish. But that means I'll only be. Oh, I don't know. Where is Swedish used? I don't know how Swedish people sound. That's the thing. You know how some comedians can make impressions of certain languages, right? Like, especially with Vietnamese or uh, Australian and whatnot, the cliche accents. I don't know how the Swedish sound. Czech is better in all Slavic languages. They learn really well. I can't imagine them speaking like Uncle Roger. Hiya. So disappointing. Oh. You know what's funny? I always use the MSG in everything I eat. MSG is magical. It's delicious. Don't use salt, use MSG. Of course, use it in very small doses. Geb, no problem. You have a Swedish draft. I mean, alright, let's think of an example. You look very comfortable by a campfire there, mister. How would you say that in Swedish? Batty Salas. Oh, hello, Batty. German is a fun language to learn, but I've been slowly trying to learn Swedish for 2 years. Oh. Also, thank you for the stuff, Patty. Bev says, yeah, they pulled me back stateside too, and I quote, to give me a break from calling people out on dumb crap and be trained to manage large. Oh no. You know, the same thing happened to one of the really good heads of traffic management in my country. He would go and walk in neighborhoods with his team and see everybody illegally parking and have them towed or clamped on the spot. No leeway, no nothing. You break the rules, you cannot reason with me. He got so infamous for it that he stumbled upon powerful individuals who were illegally parked. And guess what? He was sent for a month or a while to a behavioral workshop, right? Because he's too confrontational. Ugh. And now he's like super watching his words. It sucks. Waffle says learning German is fun, but pronouncing numbers in German is nightmare past 20. What is the numbers again? Uno, dos, tres is Spanish. Isa, dalawa, tatlo is Filipino. Ein, shui, drei. Or did I get it the other way around? German. I took ancient Greek for a language credit in high school, says Roy. Actually, a fun language and not too hard to learn after you get to use the 24-letter alphabet. Greek sounds cool. Why, hello, Cinder Calling. Nice to see you. You know, I'm glad streams like yours exist. You are back there to refilling the dwindling amount of brain cells that most of our viewers have from all the doom scrolling and the brain rot they're consuming. I always hold high respect to actual professionals in the field, finding a conducive way to talk about what they do to a general audience and making them understand it. I wish I was blessed with like a unique scalar bank of knowledge. Like, oh, Geb, you're a pilot. Geb, you're an astronaut. You're a deep sea marine biologist. You're a geological surveyor or whatnot. No, I'm just Geb. I'm me. Mhm. Yes, they'll never get me to watch my words. I just now know to document it in official channels. Can never change the path. Not bad, Geb. Oh, was that? Did I get it right? Is it Ein Shui Drei? What was my favorite phrase in German? Oh yeah, I remember. We were me and my buddy before. We were talking about naming our vehicles if we had one, right? And I said if I had a Panzer tank, right? Was it the Panzer Kampfwagen something? So if I had a Panzer tank, like a Tiger one, I would name it Scheisse Opa. I don't know why that stupid phrase stuck to me so much. Because yes, it's an old tank. It's got shitty transmission. Imagine him just like breaking two bricks. Oh no, here comes the Scheisse Opa, you know, and whatnot. It's funny. I'll see you around, Axel. My Swedish. Let me get back to that, Nord. I was blessed with unlimited social battery. So you're the type that I have to like, okay, we need to put brakes on your conversation and I'm gonna move to the other VC while you continue yapping. Or you're like Matthew's family who constantly talks in the back of the background, you know. In Spanish. Well, Sakin. This is something I saw on Instagram. It was a guy. It was a German line. I think it's like "come along here" or something like that. The Stog Tree. Yes. Hello, Dom Dom. Toivo. So many people in chat. I am surprised with the density of the crowd today as well. How are you, Shoppa? How's school treating it? I know you've been super busy because of all the academics that you have on your plate. I'm doing good. Thesis is done. Does it mean you're gonna be free soon? Big old diploma, big old mental rest. Ich bin ein Nullbit? What's that? Alright, I remember Nord sent something, right? Matthews on a 7 stream streak. Gosh. Axel took Latin in high school. Damn. Good for Axel. Cinder replied and I didn't read it. Damn it. Every person I educate on their health is one less patient I have to treat. I like your mindset. You remind me of Beth. What was the thing? Oh. Now, what did Nord send? Du serat sa avislapnad. I sound like I'm speaking Simlish. Du serat so habla slapnad adur bredvid brasa. And all I need is like the little green thing on top of my head. Shoppa continues. Gonna get into internship, which is hopefully more okay than the stress from thesis. Because I finally won't see specific people I don't like anymore. Ooh, that's the worst, huh? Being corralled into an atmosphere, a activity which you have to collaborate with unwanted individuals. Diba parang Sims? Howler sent me a DM midstream. I see Axiom pretending to be a T-Rex while cooking something. Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh my goodness. You know what? I just had 3 pieces of shrimp and pork dumplings, but I'm already hungry. Oh. You need to work on that pronunciation, Gib. I have no idea how to pronounce it until I hear it. All of these interesting languages. Yeah, sure. Well, let's take it one step at a time. Man, I wish I had like an African friend. They have like the Nigerian tone and everything. Because I think they're cool people. Disclaimer: I actually watch a bunch of content creators from there. They make really funny reels. Their way of speaking has really stuck with me. Like, we will make a video in the village. It's distinctly them. And it's the funniest thing. I don't know why. They're a master of presenting the absolute low budget best of comedies. Like there's this one film I saw, like snippets of it, and it's so funny. I need to show you guys. Oh boy, here comes Shoppa with a bit of a vent. Okay, let me condense this. So the guy's in charge. It looks like crap, the batch book. And the design that Shoppa contributed got watered down so much. Okay, good. Yep. You don't worry. Soon enough, you never have to see their face again. Oh, Gib, wanted to tell you. About 3 weeks ago, I made myself my own arms. Congratulations! Arm sleeves. I mostly just purchased mine for, I don't know, $2 a pair. It's color black. I wear it whenever I ride outside. to stave away the UV radiation that would cook my skin into a melanized version of itself. My bad. Naiinis ako. Xiaopao says, by the way, Kuya. Kuya means big brother, by the way. It's a common thing we address each other as here in the Philippines. Kuya, ate means big brother, big sister. By the way, Kuya, I noticed your streams say chasing dreams. What dream are you chasing specifically? Xiaopao, I would like to direct your attention to the bar directly beneath me. I'm chasing the Christmas miracle. It's more of the 2026 miracle, right? But it's about me finally being able to afford the one vehicle that I have been saving up for more than 5 years. It's the Honda bike. I sold my bike. I'm pooling all of my extra resources aside from the ice maker I bought last week in order to buy the bike. Yes. Unfortunately, unlike other people, they can afford it after a month of work. I have to work a long while to get it. And the sucky thing is, as a biker, when you don't have access to a motorcycle, this starts to suffer. Imagine you're so used to being on the saddle, right? Twist of the throttle, scenic views, trees flying past you, the smell of the outdoor wind that isn't the city smog. All of that gone for an extended period of time when you're used to having that every other week at the least. Yeah, commute. Ugh, and you know how bad commuting is in our country. I wouldn't mind public transportation if we had nice infrastructure for it. But, yes, again, you know how bad it is here. Xiaopao. So bad. God, I miss riding my bike. Beth, if there's one thing I wish if you were here, I need a riding buddy and that would be you. And I drag Fluffy and I would teach Axel and the others how to ride smaller bikes too if they don't know how. Nothing feels better than going on an adventure with your friends, right? Just a vague destination. All right, how about we go to the mountains, find some nice coffee, and then some food to eat, yeah? I heard they brew the best beans. Ironically, yes. The weekend rides here are called kape tayo, means let's have coffee. It's let's go to the mountains, which is 2 hours away, just to enjoy some coffee from a cafe there or some small shop. I may melt. Let's find a way to attach air conditioning to your bike. To be fair though, as long as you hear you ride the bike with no windshield or at the lowest position, so you have all of the nice Philippine air blasting against you, and all you gotta do is go outside the city limits, right? So, and you start having that nice coastal sea air because our country is one big old island along with thousands of others. That and the forest air. Oh, lovely. I would bring you to some waterfalls, man. Sit down and just have it pouring on her head. Loans can still be iffy. Loans, gosh, there's the one thing I will not condone or do is borrow money. Borrowing money is nothing but a gigantic bag of troubles. Whew. Sure, you may be able to afford what you need, right? For a while. But then after that, you have to suffer to the anxiety, the uncertainty of being able to pay back in the next month, the month after that, and the month after that for however much and long is needed. It's terrible. So you're borrowing money, right? Yes, I got that cool new thing I wanted. And then you find yourself being poorer than you were because you're not able to save up anymore. Most of what you earn per month will go to paying the person off. you're gonna notice you can't dine outside anymore. You can't buy that pretty thing that was on sale anymore that you actually need. You can't go. You gotta ration yourself essentially until you pay off the other person. Unless your income is really large. But then again, why will you be borrowing money in the first place if you earn that much already? Not to mention like the loan sharks, man. Oh my goodness. A buddy of mine is going through that. There was the whole no agreement sort of deal to borrowing money. Now they're like, the whole mafia stalking outside in some crummy old van and whatnot. Harassing. Usually there's such a high interest rate. Yeah. Mountain air in a can, anyone? I don't know. If. Hello, Kian. Batty Sanders seems to have experience with the whole debacle of borrowing money. Them, I remember borrowing money before. It most of the time it's just really small. Hey man, can I borrow $2 so I can buy lunch? I really want to try the barbecue in this place. I'll pay you on my salary. Come on, we're chums, right? It was my office best friend. His name was Dan. The same guy I went to the arcade during our lunch break. And then he would do the same thing. Hey, yeah, remember that depth of yours? Yeah, I'm feeling kind of adventurous in the restaurant today. And I'm like, yeah, what do you want? Friendship. How many bugs or birds has your helmet met when riding on the road? Surprisingly, none. I've seen videos in the States where you drive through and then you need a wiper on your visor because of the amount of bugs you fly through. Here, there's nothing really that I've encountered. Conditional friend, nah, we're good. We're good buddies. We like because we earn the same salary. We're both in the lower bracket of earning, like probably the lowest. We pocket each other for being poor. Come on, but how much did we used to earn? Like what, $350 a month, and we were working full time in an advertising agency. Oh, he was working on the back end development of things, right? He was coding for websites, and then I was handling the art side of things, the graphics. Ugh, fun times. Pisola says yes, it really depends on your income. I took a loan on my car. A few $100 a month isn't too bad, and I really do love a few $100 a month. When I was working in said advertising agency, the amount of disposable income I had after rent and grocery means I only eat twice a day, maybe thrice if I have extra bread I can buy from the vendor that passes by really cheap, $1 for 50 pieces, was less than $50 per month. To put that into perspective. So I had to find ways to earn money outside of my job. I did some sidelines here and there, a few hustles here, a gig there. Ah, it was it was challenging to scrounge up any amount of money, really. But yeah, Nordis. In Asia, the loan sharks here are loan sharks. What's this? A house loan by Mitzi. Mitzi says, I did take a loan on the car, paid it off in a few years. The interest wasn't too bad. Now the house loan. I don't think I'll ever be able to afford a house, chat. Realistically, Like those houses our parents have, you know, 3 bedrooms, a garage, a kitchen, a living room, maybe an attic or a basement. I'm probably gonna just buy a micro home with 1 bedroom, one nice sala, and then one room is just gonna be a big VR play space. And then there's a garage, of course, for my bike, and maybe a super cheap car if I buy one in the future. Oh, what world is this? Ask a curious cinder collie. I do. Let's see. Is it Timeless Respite? Yes, this is called Timeless Respite. What? Do you plan on streaming here too, Cinder? That's a lovely view. It really is. Nice ambient. Small instance. Good luck if you're gonna stream here. I hope it looks great. Hmm. Sweden has such high loan laws that if a bank tries something fishy, they get shut down. See? Yeah, we don't have like that. Batty says hearing the difference in details depending on country economy, but similarities in the resulting struggles is shocking. Oh, yeah. I don't know what I'd even do with the whole house. I would find my best friend and let them live there. Beth says, I'm going to buy a plot of land. If I can't get a house on it, I'll live out of my car. Right? Have a little trailer or camper. That sounds nice. Front of a lake, far away from civilization, but close enough to access the things you need. Some off grid living. What did you do over the weekend? I, Godwin, played a whole lot of Division 2 with a bunch of friends I persuaded to get the game with. I kind of persuaded too many. There's like 6 or 7 of us now. And there's only 4 squad size in them. Yeah. But at least they're having fun, and I do plan on playing with everyone over time. Aside from that, I got my much needed mental respite from constantly talking on screen. And here I am refreshed. Well, I lead an uneventful life, Godwin, unlike others who have relatives to visit, a group of friends that they hang out with, weekend D&D sessions, motorcycle rides every Saturday, or just partying and clubbing. No, I just wake up, I look at my computer, see what I can do. I check my fish, my cat, my apartment if there's any maintenance and feeding, and then I'm free again. Well, you see, I'm kind of cut off from the family chat. So I don't have any of that. I don't have, oh, I'm gonna randomly call my mom and ask how she is. Hey mom, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a week, haven't I? You been taking care of your back? Good, great. Yes, I've been eating as you've told me. Mm-hmm. No, we're not together anymore. I don't, anyway, yes, I just called because I wanted to say hi and then I love you, okay? Yes, I'll visit next week, promise. Yes, okay, moi. Love you. Bye. But I don't have any of that, chat. Nuh-uh. That's why the bike is so important to me. I guess at least let me have that, right? Where I go out, I get to ride, have a change of scenery. One day. Houses can be really cheap around my part of the world, says Mr. Pisona. Paid 40k on my house. Oh, 40,000, huh? That that's not bad. I can probably earn that much before it expire. What do you know? Beth just got a Starlink, a lot of batteries and solar panels, all I need. And don't forget, Beth, your trusty old shovel. Don't worry, Batian. I'm okay. Unlike other people, I don't let it feel me down, like get me down, right? Look, again, I keep on bringing up that I was homeless. I don't want it to be the central topic of my existence, but back then, I was challenged, right, home wise, and I never fell into depression or any of that sort. Surprisingly, still as jolly and chipper as I am now. Now, reading on Doran's message long, long ago in stream. Gab, you have good skill, charisma, and actual skill doesn't really get acknowledged as much as it should. Really? I always thought charisma was all about somebody being able to stand on a podium and persuade the masses before them. Wow, 40K for a house, huh? Sounds nice. Those life experiences help to shape you into the person you are now. Most definitely. Oh, gosh. It was a very humbling thing. I guess, unlike others that fall into despair, imagine not being able to have protection from rain and all that. You have roaches where you lie down, or you have to drink water from a unsanitized water pump that's so old. It's only used for washing laundry, and feeling the good grace of your neighbors giving you leftover food. I was right next to this eatery, so also I think my mouth is not tracking properly. I'm gonna turn off calibration. I'm gonna go back to how my normal thing is. It taught me a lot about appreciating things around me. Not for sure. Uh, That's why I'm so pissed about people who are blessed in their life and they so complain. Why are you complaining? You have all the resources and you're in a much better circumstance than I ever was. Uh, you've created a wonderful community. That's absolutely yes, yeah. I didn't create a community. You guys just came together on your own. If anything, it's you I have to thank. Being such nice people. Esper says, honestly, I'm glad you never did. There's a homeless guy that hangs around the store I work at. He's given up on life and cusses at anyone who dares to knock when he's occupied the handicap stall for hours on end. There's services out there to help him. He's just... See, that's the thing. You guys have the services to help these unfortunate, residentially displaced folk. I didn't have any of that. All I had was my own two hands. Grit and determination. Tracy, I survived not because out of spite or anything, Chad. I just... What kept me going? It was challenging. No family. They had no idea I was homeless for about 9-10 months. I lost a lot of weight because I couldn't eat properly. I didn't even have a bathroom. You go time travel a little bit. was it that kept me going? What kept that smile on my face from fading? I don't know. I just never felt the despair of it. It sucked, sure, but why be sad when you can be happy, right? I wasn't trying to prove to anyone that I could make it. I just did. Wasn't sure when I was gonna get out of it. There were nights I was lonely, sure, that's a given. But not enough that I would cry in a corner or anything. Or toss at the sky for me being placed in a unfortunate circumstance. I guess I just managed because I did. I like the Arc Raiders OST rock. $400K for a house, Beth? That's insane. How even to afford such a thing? Gosh. My property is quite small. 2,500 square meters. What the heck do you own? A, a cube? A gigantic stadium? My apartment that I lived in since 2019 had the grand total of what, 15 square meters. 1 5. That was the apartment prior to the one I'm at right now. Ooh. You guys have see what I mean? I never owned a yard, no nothing. I managed with 1 5. How do you get back on your feet? A big factor would be eventually one of the closer people in my life finding out what happened to me. And she got mad because I didn't let her know. She, aside from the connection she gave me to get back on my feet, she gave me a little bit of money in order to, well, move into the 15 square meter apartment that I just told you about. And then from that point on, it was all just, well, a bunch of gigs here, gig there. I've lost my old business. That's why I got homeless. And I still owed, well, I apparently owed them money, even though they practically stole from me. But I didn't want any issues, so I just paid them off. I won't go into details as to what I did in order to keep afloat prior to me streaming, which is probably the biggest blessing I've received in my life. I've never been able to afford such, such quality of life stuff. I can buy VR stuff. I moved to a bigger apartment that's not the size of a shoebox. A lot of things. I'm blessed by a wonderful community who is surprisingly not bored with what I do. Don't worry, Wooms. Yeah. It was difficult. Mahirap siya, pare. Super hirap niya. Tangina, natutulog ka sa kali. Tapos puro ipis yung kapaligid mo. Tangina, iinom ka dun sa poso na sobrang luma na puro kalawang. Kasi hindi ka naman pwede makiinom sa gripo. Ah, hello, Dummer. A house is better than renting an apartment. Oh, I know. If only I could afford one. Lucky are you that has a house. Really lucky for you. I view it partially through a lens of envy and admiration. Once you have me, I tell myself, once I have a home, then I can afford food, internet, electricity, and the utilities. I'm good in life. That's it. That's my end game. A lot of people don't realize that what they have is what others dream about. Where they can live in peace and die happily just for having that. Are you sad? No, 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 of course. I mean, fuck shit. I'm a little sad on the lighter note because I really wanna a biker without a motorcycle. There, that should sum it up. But like sad, no, I'm never really been the type. Oops. Forgot. I got fed up with rent, 700 euros, says Mr. Pisola. Instead of paying more rent, I bought the house and now I pay 210 euros monthly. Wow. I don't have a motorcycle either since none of them are running. And you know my pain, Godrin. Conversations by the campfire, right? Vesper says, you have small wants in comparison to some other people out there. Big designer brands, vacations, drinking, partying, etc. All huge wastes of money for dreams. I like that you keep things simple, practical. Yeah. And even if I could afford them, it's not something I would really indulge in. When you live through having nothing, it puts into perspective what you should prioritize in life. I would not spend a big chunk of my money on something that is disposable. Disposable meaning a vice in which you can consume or going to an event that just lasts a day and whatnot. No, I would buy something that lasts me something, a motorcycle, hardware, for example, the proper tools in order to maintain my living space and whatnot. Hell, best investment into batteries and solar panels are something I would call a worthy investment. But that's why I am not a big fan of concerts. You spend so much money to go sit in an absolutely cramped space just to view an entertainer who is already rich beyond measure. And you give a big chunk of your fortune to them just to be another face in the crowd. Yeah. No. I'm a very practical kind of person. My indulgences, my wants are, well, they're very small. as Vesper puts it. Bev says concerts are just loud and a lot of people with overpriced beer. A good live band is pretty amazing. It's amazing to experience. Is it something I'm gonna pay for? No. I've seen the prices, for example, for seats of like the K-pop bands and whatnot. I've known people who earn $400-500 a month save up for months just to go to it for one day. You could do so much more with the money you've spent to enrich your life. But no, you spend it on a concert. Did that entertainer even really need your money? No, they're probably just gonna use it to buy their second, third, fourth luxury car and whatnot. Maybe buy more stuff to shoot up their veins. Sorry, I am speaking this with a tone of negativity, but this is just based on the things I see. My next dream would indeed be a workshop. Woo. I just want a small home. Big play space for VR because I plan on doing this as my work until I can't anymore. And it's fun. I love VR. I love being with the people. But small home, play space, kitchen, room, maybe a small garden, right? And then a garage which I can close so I can spend the evenings burning the midnight oil, working, tinkering on bikes because that's my passion when it comes to anything involving hands work. Yeah, I'm sorry to sound really sappy. Come on, I'm completely happy where I am. I aspire for more, but it's not gonna make me depressed that I don't have the same level of comfort or standard of living you guys have. Like if you live in a first world country, congratulations. All I ask from the bottom of my heart really is please don't rub it in the faces of the people that don't. It sounds very insensitive. Here's the thing though. I did say I did not feel down or sad. But there are multiple times I was angry. Angry at the people who caused my situation in the first place. Here they are enjoying things that should have been mine. Yeah, let it go. I have a friend that does that, says Matt. It's hard to understand. As much as I appreciate live concerts with their effects and the live version of the music that I love, it's not worth it to go. It's more worth your time to watch it on YouTube. Again, you share my same side on practicality. If you can afford the lifestyle you're living, if your priorities, your needs are not ran over by your wants, then by all means, I have nothing I can say against you. Go to your concerts, go to your cons and everything. Please, it's your money. But if you're going to ask me, which is my money, my time, I have to politely decline. I remember last year, somebody really wanted, here locally in the country, they were rich, gave a big amount on stream, also wanted me to show up on the local con that was near my place. It was 10 minutes away from where I live. It even got to the point that they were willing to pay for my rent, the ticket, no, my stay, the ticket. And hell, on another stream, they even said, "You know what? Just I'll pay you to show up." And I said, "Yeah, no, I'm good. No, thank you." It also got really suspicious at that point. Like, bro, nobody's gonna pay for your room. Stranger danger. And then after a decline, they kind of like disappeared. Good. Cinder says, having taken care of people who have everything and people who have nothing at all, it's the people at the bottom who are always the most thankful and appreciative of what I do. Right? Some people forget the fundamental aspect of gratitude. I I'm bad at saying thank yous. But no, when I say thank you, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Really, thank you. I am most thankful to those that go out of their own way to do things without me asking. I am most thankful to those that impart knowledge for me to learn and develop a skill from. Like those that taught me how to do everything you're seeing right now. Doing 3D work. I did not know anything last year. And then I had a few people on Discord who are watching my streams. Bear with my my newbie inquiries, like, hey, how do you sculpt? How do I how do I kit bash and this and that? What are UV maps and whatnot? Oh, we can adjust parameters and like I saw much work that they never had to answer in the first place, but they went out of their own way to help. Of course, I try my best to be as polite as I can when I ask. Unlike the person in chat earlier who sounded privileged when they were asking what avatar was I using and asking me to be honest. Like, what is that? No, you can ask properly. Right? Like, hi there, I'm sorry to be a bother, but I was hoping you could help me about this and that. If you can decline and it's completely okay with me. Right? Please, if it's okay. Some people like, what is that? What world is that? What avatar is that? What setup are you using? Reply to my comment. You missed my question. Like, bro, what? I don't owe you anything. So entitled, so privileged. That's why when people are that way to me, they feel like I owe them an answer for something. And I've never met them before. We're not even friends. I just tend to strike their name out on my list of people I'll talk to. The internet has a way of doing that. Exactly. That's why I ask Vesper here. She's my moderator. She's been moderating for what? A year now. You should ask how many people she's banned, especially on TikTok. That's a big reason why I stopped streaming there too, because of the community. I cannot stand it. Zero attention span, ungrateful, trolling people 99% of the time. I feel sad about the 1% that were actually good folk, but it did me no good to stay on that platform. That platform works if you provide quick and disposable entertainment, brain rot, memes, dub overs, and skits. I do none of those. Mine is considered the boring sort of content, right? So I said that's not the place for me. It's meant for a younger audience. What's this? What kind of head do you have screwed onto your shoulders to think that you're entitled to answer to a question? Says Vesper. I don't know. These viewers, apparently. And here's the thing. After they ask the question, they never show up on stream again. So what's happening is these people will drop by your stream, not even say hello, like, oh, hello, I'm new here. You have such gorgeous cinematics into your streams. Is it okay if I ask what setup you have for the camera? That's the proper way to approach it. No, some others like, how do you do that? What do you use? And then I answer them, and then they disappear. So all they do is take away from you, right? And then they just use whatever they learned. Ugh. Gross. I don't foster that kind of community here. Sender says people have trouble setting boundaries, so no one puts people like that in their place so they continue to get away with it, and it further emboldens them to do it more. I wish I had your, what do they say? Your fluency and wonderful vocabularies in there. Emboldens. Gosh, that's a term I have not heard in a while. But yeah, that's true. They kind of just reinforces the bad behavior, right? When you let them get away with it. That's why here, this is not a safe space, my stream, despite being probably the most wholesome one on Twitch. Because I will tell people off in their face, like, buddy, you need to look at yourself and hear how you're talking. Other streamers is like, oh honey, sorry, I can tell you later, okay? Like they put on a fake front, a fake face to handle situations like that so they don't look bad, right? Don't do that. It's inauthentic. Sorry, I'm like scrolling to chat. I don't want to miss anybody's messages. Yes, I was on TikTok once. Hello, Strutsky. Oh, there. I finally caught up. TikTok is TikToxic. Business-wise, it's a dumb decision to abandon a platform you used to stream at. No, I still post clips there, right? But excuse me, I would rather have a healthier, right? Healthier level of sanity than continue going there. Ugh. It's a safe space, but it's very real. But thank you. You feel that way, Doran. The thing is, most people don't want real. Most people don't want the truth. Most people don't want real talk, right? They just want a place where they can cuddle themselves without whatever disillusionment they have, whatever toxic behavior they are nurturing, and gets gross. Leslie says you're wholesome but not cuddling. Not therapists. Don't dump your problems on us. They'll tell you off if you misbehave. I just try to be a person, Chad, who is not afraid to say no. I prefer being told if I do something wrong. Same here. I would appreciate it if you did and tell me how to improve upon it, and I will review and consider it. Some people cannot take criticism. Some people can take a lot of things, really. Beth says, if you went back to streaming there, you'll need 3 Vespers moderating, and sadly no one has cracked cloning. You know what's funny? Vesper worked alongside Mystic. Yeah, she's actually a mod. She's just really busy with her things. And another friend of mine, but she's busy now, Nika. Nika would have a head count of at least 20 to 30 people per stream ban each time I went live there. It was that bad. Oh. You see the usual comments. Oh, can you bark? What color is it? Can you show me this? Where's my mod privilege? You're a mod on TikTok, actually. Though you never really moderate. Instead of moderating Gabe's stream, I'm gonna DM him another funny video I found on TikTok. Oh no, oh yeah, oh no. My favorite place on the internet is Instagram because it reminds me of the old internet where people didn't have to walk around eggshells. Memes were memes. Funny is funny. Now everything's so sanitized, says the guy who's trying to keep SFW on stream. But you know what I mean. Ooh, that's what he says. I'm Asian. I make fun of the Chinese. I'm Chinese. Well, yes. You can't moderate on Android 14. I did not know that. Ooh. Are you still going to use the old avatar? Add scratch or stroke? See, that's the kind of weird comments, Godwin, that you should avoid because that's what I see a lot on TikTok. Oh, can I pet it? I would boop the snoot with my snoot. I would cross my legs across your neck and redacted. I can't read the rest. It's one personal space. Just because I am furry or an anthro doesn't mean I am like every other furry where you can bump your face into mine or your body on mine or wrap your arms around me without my consent. Treat me as any other human being, a stranger on the street. Okay, imagine we're walking on the street, right? I'm talking and whatnot in a cafe. You overhear my conversations. And then all of a sudden you go like, a boop. Hey, cutie pie. Like, right? You do the usual cringe furry shit. Bro, the thing you're gonna get, the nice way is you being told off. And who are you? The bad way is people will act on reflex and send a fist flying towards your face. Yeah. Mhm. I mean, come on. I get the whole. Oh, it wasn't my intent to invade your personal space by invading your personal space. I'm just trying to be friendly. Because you are friend shaped. No, you treat me with respect like any other person, right? But hey, it doesn't mean I'm against. God, I'm gonna say it. I'm not against boops, snuggles, cuddles, glomps, that's an old term, and anything that involves proximity with the other person. The thing is, you gotta make sure the other person you're doing this to is your chum, your friend. It's consensual. It's all about consent. It's kind of like petting a dog, right? Don't get mad if it bites you back. The dog doesn't know you. Instagram is cursed as hell and I love it. I love it too. High five, Norin. Vesper says, don't get me started on the people saying, adopt me. Oh my god. Adopt me, calling Gib, you know, daddy. Are calling me mommy. Ooh, why? I mean, I get it. It's. Look, if you find someone attractive, there are better ways you can convey it to them without them wincing towards the words of choice. I'm guilty of full schnoz to schnoz, but Cinder Collie likes it. Hey, as I've said, if the other person's cool with it, awesome. It's like that person in the furry meetup, says Nord. He came up to my face and was like, I'm touching your face, and then moved. That was just plain weird. Respect is the word of the day, says Axiom. Respect is indeed the word of the day. Cinder says, I've had similar experiences in suit. People seem to think that a fursuit means you can just boop, hug, grab, etc. without asking. I I've never been to a furry con or wore a suit, so I don't really have the proper merit to chime on it. But from what I've seen, you're right, and I agree with what you've said. It's, personal space. I think that's why there's funny little pins that people have, like, please ask before hugging and whatnot, those things. VR is a great analog for fursuiting. Right? Right? Look, I get to do all this funny tweaking and whatnot without having to touch a single needle. Or I need a sewing machine. I just need Blender, Substance Painter, Unity, and a lot of hours and headaches into doing things. And I can meet up with other people in the comfort of my air-conditioned home. I can lie down on the bed while talking to you. I don't have to pay commute, ticket prices, and whatnot. Also, Cinder, I guess, in my country, fursuiting is not really practical. Not when you have 40 degrees Celsius above days and the humidity is 100%. There's smog, dust, and public transportation's a nightmare. Lucky if you have a car. In the States, I understand. I envy you guys. You have such nice climates for fursuiting or wearing nice clothing in general. If you guys sweat a lot in your current climate, imagine here. And when you sweat, you reek. You smell bad. I don't want to go into a room that smells of repugnant odors coming from a condensed can of human beings in suits. As an Asian, I can totally agree with what you said. Hello, Hayden. Respect your elders, says Fluffy. Damn straight, old man. That's bad. Yes, Vesper. There are better ways indeed. But yeah, again, for me, just ask first, right? And if you get rejected, move on. That's the purpose of asking a question. It's either you get a yes or a no. Some people don't like the no part, the rejection after asking a question. That's why they just do it. Which is a horrible, horrible habit. Vesper says, there's a reason why some fursuiters will wear badges to remind people to actually treat them like humans. And hell, I've seen PSAs about drop crotch fursuits. Drop crotch? What are drop crotch fursuits? Oh, going on. Belly rubs can be extremely awkward when you don't take the human underneath, right? Based on based on a certain individual's account on scenes and gatherings of like-minded individuals into kinks, in those spaces, those are completely normal. The problem is when you mix that, what you do, into a public space where other people can see it, that's a big no-no. Not everybody has the same category of interests and allowances and yes and no's consensually as you do. Oh no, Geb, don't ask. I have an idea what it is and I'm good. 40 degrees, yes. I'm sorry, how do I read your name? Strutsky or Strutsky? Yes, Fluffy. Whoa! Cinder deciding to support with Prime. My goodness, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Oh yeah, did you like the raid last time? Sorry I had to dip real quick. I was pooped. I was tired. I was like, okay, I'm gonna look for someone to raid. I rarely raid. I've raided probably 5 people in my whole streaming career. And I just happened upon your stream and I like what you were talking about. EMT and whatnot. God, knowledge, brain food. Cool. Also being, without being too firm, friendly. And then say, okay, let's drop chat here. Yeah. Also, Cinder Collie here, the streams was a hobby. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are you a full-time EMT or whatnot? I was there at that last part of stream before I had to dip. Unlike me, I work full-time, chat. I'm a beggar on the internet. Yes. I am nothing but a digital street busker. That's the reality. Can vouch for this as somebody whose suit is a bit long on them. Oh, Strutsky, got it. Drop crotch, says Vesper, where it goes lower than the crotch to give a toony look to the. Oh, right. So you have like really short knees, like a corgi would. Oh. So if you belly rub somebody with a drop crotch, you think their belly is like here, but oh, I get it. Right. Okay, I got it. That ain't my belly button, sir. An ER nurse. Awesome. Big respect. I like to see Gibbs' gears spinning at someone. What do you mean gears are spinning? Perfect since Cinder's now a VR chat streamer. Hi. It's it's my fear of having undesirable encounters within the furry community in general, which is keeping me from collaborating with other people. Really, just you know how some furry content creators have a circle or whatnot, a group of streamers and this and that. You always see me just alone or with Vesper. She's currently busy with school work, college. Hello, Drafter. Nord goes like, Gib, I don't understand. The Naguan raps. Oh. Some people forget that you need to treat furries like any other human being. Precisely. I don't want to speak ill of other people doing what they need in order to put food at the table. Right? I'm in particular adult content creators on Twitch, for example. But when the general public asks, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" and I tell them, "Oh, I stream." As what? You're one of those anime? No, I'm a black and drew lizard, right? And then, oh, you're a furry, yeah. And then let's see, what do the furries or like the VR chat streamers do? And then you see it's just all censored content, and it's when you click one of the thumbnails, it's just the boobs. That's it. Don't get me wrong, I like a good feminine shape, but it kind of does not leave a good first impression to those that are not educated on what content creators are, furries in particular, because you see like 9 out of 10 furries out there, they're the individuals who are definitely more comfortable sticking around to other people compared to me. I feel like people forget that behind that mask is an actual human being. Yeah. Funny thing is, I don't wear a mask when I stream. The me here is the me IRL. Except I share more funny Instagram reels and I'm very vocal when I play games. Like, oh damn, I'm shot, I'm dead. Medic. What's that symbol on your hands? That's a strange. This is the direction, the path. Geb's Cursor. I'll tell you about it next time, don't worry, when I have a better write up. But I have a bunch of symbols on my body. I remember telling Chant that this arrow, represents me just going one direction, and that direction is forward. It would be fun to see you stream games. I've actually tried it. Axiom, I've the VR chat Avi that I have, I just green screen it. and then I play a game. Of course, I have to tune down settings, but the question is, what game do I play, Axiom? Lauren says I just keep my furry side of things private from everyone I know IRL because I don't like to deal with the 20 questions about it. Me, I gotta read the person first. If you're talking to an old lady who obviously cannot comprehend what you're gonna tell them, you just tell them, "Hi, I'm a content creator on the internet. I talk to people." But if it's somebody who's genuinely interested, then I impart the knowledge. The thing is, I don't really hide anything about myself, Chad. The less secrets you keep, the less lies you weave towards your audience, the less trouble you're gonna have down the road. The server used to. What? The server symbol? No, it's always been the arrow. Oh my. What's that fell? Oh, that's what fell. Got it. I'm a big lizard on the internet. That's what I tell them. I'm a black and blue lizard on the internet, and I chat with people. I keep them company. They keep me company. I use VR as my medium. Would you like to show us and explain all those symbols? That would involve me removing my clothes, and that is not the OS. Even though I'm not a girl. I mean, I have some here, and especially on the back, but if you're in VR chat, I often hang out in beaches or hot springs, so you may get a chance to see it. Persian Drift says, I feel like it's a secret that doesn't really matter if it's revealed. Like, if it's not a huge part of who I am, then I don't feel the need to tell people about it. Yeah, precisely. IRL binoculars, yes. Something fell. It was one of the things on my table, but don't worry about it. I, for one, enjoy your company. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. I'm also thankful because streaming has been a good platform for me to improve on my language because prior to it, I used to substitute 50% of the words I say with cuss words. Like, what the this or this? Yes, now I made it my own solemn vow that unless absolutely necessary, I'm not going to cuss while I'm on stream. And I've been going strong for like more than a year and a half. Yeah. If Queso can do it, I can do it too. My favorite streamer, by the way. It also helps with the verbal articulation. That's true. You see, when you cuss a lot, it is most definitely not a sign of intelligence. Well, again, if as long as your hobby doesn't one, harm other individuals, or two, stink up the place, right? Then I'm cool. You can do whatever you want. You can believe whatever you are, as long as you don't bring any of that within my yard, and we're good. We can talk with the fence in between us, right? Especially with the religious folk. Please give the flying spaghetti monster will offer you salvation. All you gotta do is believe and sacrifice, two of your lunches per week. Instead of rice and your usual dumplings, you eat spaghetti and meatballs. And then the Lord and Savior will be happy. But if you don't, you shall go to spaghetti hell. Like, you can eat your spaghetti and beliefs over there, and I'll eat my steak over here and my dumplings. Yes. Night Drifter says, I'm new here, but I find the way you talk fascinating. I feel English is not your first language. Correct. My first language is Tagalog. It's the language as Filipinos talk with. For example, how do I say, good morning everybody. Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. I'm trying to dial back on cursing, says Beth. Gotta start. Oops, it scrolled up too fast. Gotta start looking professional. I mean, I think you already looked the part. Nice gruff, shiny old bald dome jacket. Cussing a lot doesn't make you seem intelligent. And to be fair, I'm not very game smart, so I do cosplay. Listen, the cussing part, it's just a challenge for myself. That's all. You can cuss all you want. Not that I like hearing it, but when I play games, I do the same too. Like, oh, shit. Yeah, I use that word a whole lot. Hello, Dragon Sky. Onyx. A lot of protogens dropping to my streams, yes. Ha! I never said I was smart. And you be proud about that, champion. You may not be the best at being smart, but at least you can be the best at being stupid. That's an interesting looking jacket. Now this? Something I picked up recently. By recently, it means a few months ago. So yeah. Gosh, what time is it? We've already been going at this for 2 hours and 17 minutes. Time flies so fast. I wonder what's going on in the Discord. Howler sent me a picture of a drop crotch. Oh, this looks cute. It reminds me of the aesthetics that
Another ad. I swear to God, Twitch.
the Chinese fursuiters wear, right? They like the really chibi proportions and whatnot. Oh my goodness. Fluffy and Howler. In the VC for 4 hours. What are you guys doing? I hope we're working on getting you to level 30. 40 actually. The Red Freak Pythos has decided to support me. Thank you so much. Again, you're the best at being you. I challenge you to try and make the coin land on its side. I don't think that's possible. No. But this thing? No. You see, before, I used to always play a game of chance with my viewers. Instead of people directly tipping, I offer them a choice. Double or nothing. If I lose, right, for example, it lands on skull instead of the heart, I get to do any request within reasonable bounds on stream, like read a line, do a funny sound, stretch or whatnot. And if I win, whatever they were supposed to tip becomes double. It was a fun little game. Beth, I expect you to be 30 plus. Finish at least the Capitol Hill stronghold so we can do stuff in New York. Good conversations makes time fly by. Cinder, I appreciate you sticking around. I assume you're a busy person. So please, don't feel obligated to spend as much time in this boring old place. Night Drifter says, cool, I've always have found other languages a bit more interesting due to the fact of how they sound. For instance, the accent one can notice in another's voice when speaking a completely different language. I am absolutely enamored by broken English and other accents. Same here. Right. Don't apologize for the comments, Night Drifter. At least your comments have substance. I'm off today. Awesome. What's that like when Cinder's like off? Oh my god, we have somebody with like a severed tail in the ER. I'm Sam, it's my day off, so you guys got this. I gotta pay for some coats today, then I'll be back on the grind. Coats? It's just in preparation for winter. Of course, Mitzi, running on 2 hours worth of rest. Clearly a healthy endeavor to do. We're gonna start timing him out on the Discord chat. The hospital runs itself with or without me. They can handle a severed tail. Or, the tail would probably grow back anyway. If they have regeneration. Yeah, I feel conscious about making anatomical jokes around Cinder because I know nothing and Cinder knows a lot. Professional. Axolotl. Probably it was an axolotl. That'd be fine. Give him some ice cream and let him walk out from the AR. Gifts. Fancy coat for a sister, a shawl for the mom and a few other people. Gifts for family, huh? I don't know if I should be happy or sad about the fact that I don't have to buy gifts for them. I do miss seeing their faces whenever I give them a tiny little gift. I didn't have money back then, so all I could was give them a card. Hey mom, here's a card, please read it. And the card I would write about how thankful I am and this and that and how much I love her. Obviously, I wasn't aware of the flaws back then in the upbringing, but those wholesome little things. Or like a funny crayon drawing of me and the family, the stuff you put on the fridge. I hope you don't mind. I'm gonna go hydrate. Your parents appreciate those cards more than you think, right? I would appreciate the same thing too. Sorry, I have a big old jug with a straw. Oh, it's so cold. Oh my goodness, I can't drink this straight. Why did my tongue do that? Ignore what you just saw, Chad. A card with a wholesome message inside is heartwarming. That's true. What? I was just drinking, Chad. I can't help it. My tongue does the thing, see? Stop staring. I'm a lizard, okay? It's normal. It's completely normal. Now, I zoomed in to convey the message clearer. You know, this got me curious. Wonder who is watching. Jimmy Reindeer. That's a nice name. What did you study at school? Asked Godwin. I, art student. I studied animation. That's it. Nothing interesting. Never worked on any big projects. Just ended up in some advertising agency and making graphics for banks, Jack Daniels, Honda, Dunkin' Donuts, and a few other things. If you've seen them on Facebook, that's probably made by me. Blah, 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 blah. Missed my message about how to deal with cold weather. Bad advice. Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. So Dragon Scar asks, how to deal with negative degrees Celsius weather in Western Canada? From what I've seen is, you fight fire with fire. But this time, you fight ice with ice. So you start your mornings completely unclothed. Morning shower? No. You fill up your little inflatable tub with as much ice and water that permits you fitting into it. An ice bath prepares you for the sub-zero temperatures outside. You go outside not in a winter coat, but in spandex, enough to outline the important parts of your body. Your glorious abs, of course. Last but not the least, no warm drinks at all. Iced tea to fight the ice. I could go on, but you have the idea. Bad life advice, Chan. Ice bath. Hypothermia is just a fancy word for you adapting to the ice, except you're losing. Trying this the Mormon, right? Right, and then if Cinder Collie survive, if Cinder Collie enjoys how it went, then now we have a testimonial from a professional. Beth says you gotta build up immunity to cold damage. Like drinking poison to get immunity, right? You start off resistant, right? And then you become immune to it eventually. And then to the point that you actually get healed by it. Cold is the new warmth. To know the ice, you become the ice, says the mighty Draum. Yes, you walk outside with no clothes in winter, right? You make underwear made out of snow. I mean, enjoy. That's what I said. It was probably lag. That actually sounds like good advice. With lower body temp and spandex would actually keep the heat in. Batty says a bit of tangent, but I watch your streams when I work from home and the vibes are always immaculate. Immaculate? Well, I'm glad you're enjoying your stay. Work from home. Pray tell, since we're on the topic, what do you do for work? I've always been fascinated about the concept of remote work for a company. I've never been able to do that in my advertising agency stint back then. I've always wanted to cosplay as a frozen Han Solo, so best just say. Ice swimming is. I need to try that. The closest I've had was I went to a sauna, right? It was negative 40 degrees Celsius pool, and then there was an ice bath. I went into it, and you know what? It was cold, but it felt great for some reason. It was prickly and feeling. Of course, I had to get out in less than 30 seconds. Was cinematography part of your studies or self-taught? The ambience of your streams are always appealing. I just like video games a lot. I like Mass Effect, I like Dragon Age except the latest one, and essentially RPG games, Fallout. And I've taken a page from how they do things. You see, my streams chat aren't just chatting. I've always wanted to be like an interactive cutscene because this is the part I enjoy most when I play said games. When you get to talk to somebody. You get to talk to somebody and it's like, just NPCs like, stop right there, criminal scum. Nobody breaks the law under my watch, stuff like that. Need something. You're doing remote work right now, that's true. I'm a scaly busker. Look at my hat. I have one here and an even bigger hat over here. Yes, there's coins. Yes, somebody bought me a meal for another day. I can't go into details, says Batty, but I send reports on employee contractors to requesting companies. I see. That's cool. So organizational, brainy assessment stuff. Nord says, "Oh hell no! Cold dips for me. I prefer my tooth being on the outside." So Nord is afraid of the armadillo mode happening, and then gotcha. Why did you have to put that image in my head? The shrinkage. I can't do the lip in. Oh well. Stupid calibration. The disappearing act. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, when I play MM2, what's MM2? I use a short avatar and hide inside the dead bodies of the murderer and kill with to get. Oh, like murder? That's smart, except for the nameplates, like kind of show. I don't think everybody else disables nameplates in VR chat like I do. Yes, I disable nameplates unless I'm in a public instance. But very smart, Neplo. The only disadvantage, what colds bring, is shrinkage. Not a fan. Yeah. It's like licking a sour lemon, except it's not your face that's gonna I get it. I'll stop with the visualizations. I do. Well, Howler, you're good for you. There are no nameplates. Oh, is it disabled? I haven't played Murder in a long while or played it much, so I can't really speak much on the game. Hello, Lance. Nice seeing you again. Watching it shrink. Why do you have to implant that in my head? Now I can see it. It's so bad. Oh, it's like one of those flowers or plants when you touch them, they like, they do that. It's oh my god. Completely forgot to do the one thing and not to charge my microphone. Now, where did I cut off? Suddenly got very peaceful. Oh, sorry for chatting, Strutsky. There we go. Sorry. I have to clip on my mic to this funny 3D printed mount I have on the headset. Shrinkage, right. So, I was talking about a sauna. So, I went to a sauna. It was nice, thick, and steamy inside, right? So thick that I could cut the air with a butter knife if I had one. The problem was, I started having difficulty breathing. It's as if there's too much water in the air. It's like, I think I need to go outside. Same with the bats. We had bats here that was like chamomile, jasmine. It was tea bats. And then it was in varying degrees of heat. I think it was 40, 45, and 50. Or don't quote me on that. But we had 3 pools of varying heat. And then before you could go in, you had to make sure you had a towel. And then you had to rest the back of your neck on a pipe that was essentially running super chilled water. I think it was borderline frozen. Something about keeping the blood from spiking in your brain or something. I never understood it, really. I kind of want to go back there, now that I think about it. It's just that the thought of sharing water with 100 other people, because it was this big interconnected park, like a indoor water park. It's called the Water Spa. You can Google it, Ace Water Spa, ACE. And then there's a lazy river. There was this big showers with special nozzles that would essentially massage your back because you had to lie down on something flat. And what else was there? Yeah, all sorts of fun stuff. But it was kind of gross. So all of these people with skin conditions like fungus and whatever is funny living in their crotch, all of those that I don't want to think about it. Made me never want to go back. I know there's filtration systems and bleach to keep it clean, but the thought of all those things, I think it was there to help prevent lightheadedness. I see. Yeah, no, I could never. I'm glad Litz is a very clean person. Of course, Doran has. What is this? Please tell me that's milk tea and cookies. I need to check the Discord later for everybody that put in the effort to have the Christmas hat. Go and show that you're holly and jolly, and then you get bonus levels. Guess what's in the ocean water? A whole lot of ammonia and everything else. Yeah, no, I've never. I'm still mad. What do you mean you're still mad? I knew, I knew you. I knew you took it to heart. Hot water can kill every bacteria. I think. I'm not a microbiologist. Can it? Well, probably not the ones in the deep sea vents, but. Hmm. Chat, we're already at 2 hours and 41. I. Yes, yes, we have been streaming that long. Hot water can burn skin, so I assume it can kill. Maybe the bacteria is more resilient to the temperatures than the human body can. Hmm. Oop. Military promotion on the sea. Congratulations, Mr. Pesola. Go share some hamburgers with the rest of chat. How long do you plan to keep on streaming? Asked Mr. Pesola. 10 more minutes. Or that depends. There's a lot of viewers. So I don't want to disappoint the crowd. I know, Cinder. But as they say, time is gold, right? And that means both ways. So, Alright, then. What are you guys gonna do after stream anyway? I'm curious. Once I've drawn the curtains and the live has gone off, where do you disperse to? Play a game, do some chores, meet some people. Might do some MechWarrior online. Talk about old school, not fun. Can I play some games? Definitely excited. Just need to finish the schoolwork due tomorrow. My gosh, love, how much more work do you have? I was thinking of hanging around VR chat for a teeny tiny bit. Maybe have a nice chat with people by the fire. I'll take a bath and go to bed, says Catherine, because it will be 10 o'clock in the evening at my place. Please, rest well. Hit the sack and sleep, says Woob. Napapapuyat ako sa stream mo, kuya. You need to get some sleep. Matulog ka na. Please, don't stay up for my sake. It's okay. I feel like playing something, but I'm too tired to do anything. You know, there's a vacant seat right here or there across where I am if you want to hop in VIC, Liz. What will you do after stream, Gab? I've done my Unity work. I've done my Blender stuff. I am tempted to play games, but I have been devoid of VR chat for the past 4 days. So I will probably linger on here for a short while. And enjoy the stream. Alright, Howler, catch you later. Did you fix the Marco? Shut the heck up. I knew I forgot something. I said, I was looking over my Avi in Blender, right? All right. Fix the shape keys here. I could have sworn there was something I needed to re-weight paint. And lo and behold, I forgot about the hand mark. That's not visible anyway. Shh. See, I thought you were going to endorse me not working. Good thing I've got no classes tomorrow. Good. I'm not gonna condemn you for staying up late. I used to sneak off a lot too when I was younger. I used to do this technique. Like, mom was very strict about me being at bed at 10. She catches me awake at 11, I'm dead. So I have my PlayStation 2, right? And then my TV directly at the foot of my bed. So I would have the controller while I run underneath my blanket. And then I would roll up a towel and put it at the base of my door to block out the light. That's usually how mom can tell me being like I'm not sleeping. It's like, oh, why is there like light coming out of that boy's door? So I would do that. I would play Grand Theft Auto San Andreas until like 1 a.m. Good old head under the. What do you mean? Quiz time. Good luck, Vesper. Gosh. Who am I going to keep company with in VIC? Let's see who's online. Social. That's the con of having a very small friends list, chat. I have one. Like 10 friends or less. If not, I'm gonna go explore some worlds. Some worlds that might look cool for stream. GTA San Andreas is the best. Okay. Don't starve together. It felt criminal for me to play GTA back then. Right, same here. They would always judge what was going on the screen. You're moody as heck, Axiom. You then do the things that will not exacerbate your condition. I'll definitely be online. How about we go... Later, Vesper. We go play. Yes, let's play The Division. But also VR chats on the window. Yes. KDST is the GTA San Andreas radio station. Oh. Okay. Well, up to you guys. I'm just gonna be here. Probably make some food in a bit. Uh-oh. That is my headset saying low battery. I really need to upgrade the power banks I have. All I have is the funny little 10,000 milliamp hour ones that I swap around. They last like 2 hours. Let's go swap it out real quick. Put this there. Lift my headset so I can see. Put this there. Plug this thing back in. Gotta get the 20k ones, that's for sure. Cook some pasta, Gib. Oh, you know what? Sounds nice. At least make something that is nice and edible. I remember actually making pasta out of... What did you do? Ketchup and mayo? Or was it chocolate syrup that you poured? There we go. Nice and powered up. Yep. That's daisy. Not gonna lie, I was expecting to catch your streams again. Since they're normally very late for me, I hope you've been well. Thank you, Robbie. Hmm. Ketchup and pickles for pasta. Well, whatever works, I guess. Hello, Fox. I mean, I used to eat chocolate rice porridge. It's called champurrado in my country. And champurrado, well, has salted dried fish on top of said porridge, and it was absolutely delicious. Lit says it's just like my BF eating pasta with applesauce. What is he, a baby? Isn't that like the gerber stuff? Hmm. You know what, chat? I'm gonna heed everybody's advice and I'm gonna go say goodbye for now. But I will see who is streaming. We should check the VR chat category.
What you want and
Yo.
your budget. There's
Why is the top 2 streamer on VR chat right now a guy with no shirt on and just boxers? And it's IRL. He doesn't look like he's in shape. Is he a comedian? His name is Lazy. Lazy. Gosh. See. Noxy. I remember this blue kangaroo. Don't mind me, I'm just looking through streamers. Thanks for the company, Gab. Alright, how about this? Chat. So I don't keep you long here. It's been a lovely, lovely Monday, chat. And I hope you guys have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. Do the chores that you need to do. Go shop for stuff that you've been putting off. Go clean. You know you have to. Those pants, put it in the laundry. It's been more than a week. Yes, shoes needs to be laundered too. Make effort. Don't make it stinky. Brush your teeth. Buy that floss you just ran out. Restock on the hot dogs that you know you've been wanting. Get the ones with cheese inside. Lastly, I'm not gonna go. What's the proper word again? Stall. Right. Stall. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I will see you day after tomorrow. Yeah. Probably have Vesper along because she's not dead from campus stuff. Yes. So, let's action Mr. Pesola, Cinder, Collie, EMT, no, ER Extraordinaire, Oh Fox, Dragon Sky, Carp, Fluffy, Mitzi, Nord, Woobs, Batisalis, and Rook, and everybody else watching. Doran too. You stay as awesome as you are, alright? See you next stream. For now, I gotta go, ciao, alright? Bye-bye.